I'm just gonna put it down.
Yeah, that's good. But I'm of the opinion that you can't really, I mean, even though the uh, quote Czech music has had an impact in Central Texas, not only Central Texas, but different areas of Texas as well. Like down toward uh, Fayette County,
Mm-hmm.
Weimar, LaGrange, and places like that, and not only Texas, but up in Wisconsin, Minnesota, and places, other states as well,
Mm-hmm.
where the Czechs, migrated to and settled down. But I think, having looked at it, well, I guess my barometer is what I hear on the radio on these quote polka music shows, and the music that I hear is a mixture of, you got some German, you have some Czech that's thrown in there, and you have some Hispanic as well, Mexican music, and they kind of hodgepodge it all together, which is okay, because it's polka music. They're not differentiating one from the other. But I'm saying that, years ago that I was, I mean, I think that the Czechs probably had the, what should I say? I don't know if they had the corner on the market or not, but
Mm-hmm.
they, uh, whenever I was a youngster listening to the polka shows, it was strictly Czech and German when there wasn't any Mexican music thrown in there. So of course a lot of this has to do also, I think, with just people's um, um, losing their biases and things like that. Where we're becoming a little more. Uh, I can't think of the word, but you know what I'm saying. In other words,
Mm-hmm.
we're kind of like one worldism, so to speak. We're all in this together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so do you think it's that particular sound? I mean, what is the sound of Czech music, and do you think that relates to kind of the sound of a lot of German music and maybe some of this Mexican music you're talking about, like conjunto music, which uses a lot of accordion and like the same kind types of instruments?
Yeah.
Uh, do you think that's why those can all be blended together on the same station uh, and work, and people can listen to that
I think.
consistently?
Yeah, I think especially the younger generation is probably going to be more inclined to listen to that. Whereas uh, I think some of the older folks, and I'm talking about people who are, my age or older, may still really prefer listening to, strictly Czech type music. And the and the Czech music that we hear on radio today, is really what I call text Czech. It's
Mm-hmm.
not Czech music in its purest form.
Mm-hmm.
And
I was wondering if anyone had coined the term Czechs' music.
yeah, well, I haven't heard that term, but you hear of Tex-Mex. Well, this is Tex Czech, in my
Tex
opinion.
Czech.
Yeah.
I like that.
But and really, this kind of music is a carryover, and this is just me speaking. I don't have any way to document it, but it seems to make sense. And that is that, whenever the immigrants first came over many years ago, the turn of the century especially, there was a big influx then, I think, 1900 or so, and into Texas through Galveston. And back then, there wasn't any large established orchestras or anything like that. Pretty much if there was a wedding, the wedding dance consisted of taking place at somebody's home, and they removed all the furniture from the living room, rolled back the carpet, and you have one guy on accordion, another guy on a violin, and maybe a fellow on a guitar,
Mm-hmm.
and they provided the dance music,
Mm-hmm.
and that was the way they did it. And then from that, then it began to expand to, like I think we were talking the other day about families, where they
Mm-hmm.
family bands got started, and if it was a talented family like yours, for example, well, everybody played a musical instrument, and they also sang, and then they began playing the music that they were familiar with from the old country.
Mm-hmm.
And in some ways it changed, and it changed probably more of necessity, I think, and that is because they didn't have necessarily written music to go by, they would go by memory.
Mm-hmm.
And but what it evolved to, I think, is a lot of the stuff you hear now is they play the chorus only, like say from a polka or a waltz, and then different instruments or musicians take a ride on that, you know, and they'll roll it through two or three times, and then that's the song, so to
Mm-hmm.
speak. And that's okay. I mean, that's I mean, if people enjoy listening to that, that's all right. But I'm not exactly a purist, but I do have a preference,
Mm-hmm.
and that's to hear the music as it was actually written or penned by the composer, and all of the I'm talking about orchestrated music,
Mm-hmm.
okay, where people are actually reading it and playing it accordingly, and it's to me it's more like the old country type music, you might say, the traditional Czech music.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I go for, rather than the new stuff that you hear now on the radio. So, I mean, it's all right, but if I had a preference, if I was going to go to a dance where you had just, you know, uh, say a local band playing, or if you had one that's coming in from Czech Republic, I'd go with the one from the Czech Republic,
Mm-hmm.
sure. You know, no doubt about it, hands down. So that's just the way I feel. You know, it's just my personal preference.
Sure. Well, so are you saying that radio stations in this area tend not to play that type of music? It's more of like the Czech greatest hits and choruses and solos and things like that.
Exactly,
Okay.
100%. There's a guy that I like to listen to during the weekdays. His name is Michael Craig, and he broadcasts out of KRXT in Rockdale.
Mhm.
And of all the music that's probably in his library, he only plays maybe each day. You know, he may pick from 15 to 20 songs, and
Mhm.
he's playing those repeatedly, day after day.
Oh
I mean,
wow.
you can just about count on it.
Mhm.
And I mean, there's a rare time where he may get, you know, like Moravanka or somebody like that from the Czech Republic, and he'll play that. But you could probably count on one hand or even one, just one finger, how many times he's done that, you know, within the past month. Okay,
Uh-huh.
it's very rare that he does that. And I think basically what he's doing is he's catering to the musical wishes or, you know, preferences of the people that tune into the program.
Mhm.
Otherwise, if you don't have an audience, then your sponsors are not going to be patronized.
Mhm.
So it's done maybe out of necessity more than actual what he would like to hear or like to play.
Mhm. Who are the listeners of those types of stations that, you know, these days? What do you think the demographic is,
Hmm.
and where are they located?
Well, I would think that for the most part, the listeners are going to be here, like, you know, as far as their job status goes. You know, it could be farmers, it could be, you know, just common laborers and people like that. You know, not people who are what I would call quote professionals. You know, like lawyers or doctors or
Mhm.
anybody else. And I, you know, that just to hear the people calling in, you know, for requests, or it's not. What should I say? I would call them the common people.
Mhm.
Right.
So do you think that makes Czech music kind of music for the common man, or for common people?
Yeah, I think it could. I mean, I guess, you know, you really have to have a lot. You don't have to be of Czech descent to enjoy Czech music. A good case in point is this man that I play my accordion with, and Willard Dyer is a super musician. He plays any kind of music, but his wife is of Czech descent, and in fact, she grew up in the Cornhill, Gerald area. Her maiden name is Kohoutek, and so whenever he married her, well, then he became more involved, I guess, or familiar with, you know, Czech music.
It's probably in his best interest.
Yeah, probably so, especially when it comes to his in-laws, you know. I know
Yeah.
his daddy-in-law in particular. I think he was maybe trying to butter him up just by playing his kind of music, you know. But he got good at it, and he can play Czech music just as good as any guy who's of Czech descent can, you know, because he's, you know, it's he knows how to do it.
Mhm.
So, but I think that there's a lot of people here in Central Texas that are not of Czech descent that still tune into the polka shows, because they just happen to like that kind of music. It's basically, peppy music. I mean, it's, happy sound, kind of uplifting, and folks like that. Makes them feel
Mm-hmm.
better. And we were talking about the polka, going to these different dance halls and stuff like that. And what you said the other night is 100% correct, and that is that when you go to a Czech-oriented type of polka dance, uh, there's not going to be any fighting going on.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like you would go to one of these saloons or where they're playing, country western type stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's the people, the way they were brought up, where they could drink without getting rowdy or what,
Mm-hmm.
But that's just, and the same could be said for the Germans. I think theirs is the same way, because there's a blending of the Czechs and the Germans, intermarriage of Czechs and Germans, and so really it's kind of it's kind of they kind of uh, flow together, so to speak. Sometimes you have trouble actually differentiating,
Mm-hmm.
except just by the last name, uh, the surname, and then you'll find that this German guy married a Czech girl,
Mm-hmm.
or vice versa, and so it's you, and so the music itself is going to be the same way. You're going to find a lot of German music. It's going to be played by a Czech orchestra, or I'm talking about that people of Czech descent
Mm-hmm.
in the orchestra, and that's just the way it is. They don't differentiate. It's if it sounds good, they're going to play it. So.
So, two things I wanted you to talk about specifically, but one thing is I wanted uh, my classmates and my professor to know just, uh, a little bit about your background and, and in a sense what qualifies you, or how you know so much about the subject matter, how you know about Czech music, not in the sense that you have any kind of formal education necessarily, but just in life experience and, and, and who you married and her family and, or about your own heritage, how you grew up, the music that you listened to, how you got started on accordion, just things like that, and just how this has become a part of your life.
Well, since my parents were first generation Americans, and so their parents came from the old country, and so consequently, the Czech influence was still very strong.
Hmm. When you say the old country.
Yeah, from Czechoslovakia.
Okay, okay.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly. And so it was. My father played a button accordion, and I guess I was about at the age of 6 maybe, and I don't know if he asked me to try it out or whatever. I can't remember the circumstances, but anyhow, I started trying to play it, and he saw that I was taking interest in it, and he decided that he would take me to somebody who could give me accordion lessons. And so we went to a teacher there in Austin, and he said that a button accordion is nice, but a piano accordion is better. It's more versatile. You can play more different songs with it and everything else. And so I got started on the accordion, piano accordion, and I've stayed with it ever since. But my father, because, and I think this is probably an influence too, and that is he took out insurance policies on my brothers and myself through the SBJST. And SBJST, of course, is a Czech organization, dating back to 1897, I guess, is when they were established and they were founded. And I guess they probably did that, just like the Germans did with Germania insurance, and that is because of the discrimination against immigrants that were coming in the country, by the people that were living there at the time, which was basically Anglo, I guess. And so they just decided to establish their own insurance companies, and that's what they did.
Hmm.
But
Suffolk Hall and Seton, is that associated with the SBJST
the Seton Star Hall is.
or Seton Star Hall?
Suffolk Hall is a privately owned dance hall.
Okay.
Sure is, but it's been there for years and years. And SPJST is instrumental, I think, in keeping the Czech heritage alive. Uh, Somebody else is also doing that now. That's the Czech Heritage Museum in Temple,
Hmm.
and they offer uh, these series or presentations that are called All Things Czech, and they'll uh, give some aspect of Czech history. I saw it in the paper yesterday, or today, I guess it was. They were going to be talking about some of the religious figures in Czech history, Saints Cyril and Methodius, and also Jan Hus. And that would be something to go listen to and to learn from.
Mm.
Yeah. But I may have deviated or, kind of sidetracked from what we were trying to talk about. But my father was the one who actually inspired me to start playing accordion, and then he supported me 100%. He would, religiously take me to get my lessons, or take me to South Austin. We drove down to South Austin for my accordion lessons, and back then it was $2 for half an hour, and $2 was a lot of money then,
Mm.
And then whenever the SBJST had their Youth Achievement Days, he would take me to that, and I would get up on stage and play my accordion, competing with all these other kids doing their thing,
Hmm.
and it was, you know, one way to keep me going in the Czech culture, because everything I played was going to be a polka or a waltz.
Hmm.
It wasn't until I got older that I began to expand into, more like popular music, you might
Hmm.
say. But it's still my favorite. I still like playing those above anything else.
Hmm.
So,
Do
and
you have fond memories of of that type of music being played in your home growing up?
yeah, mostly it was being played just on the radio over the weekends.
Hmm.
We'd tune into a polka show, or if we were going down the highway, and my father would tune up the radio and bring in a local show and that sort
Hmm.
of thing. So yeah, that's definitely part of our life
Hmm.
was the Czech music. So,
So as far as Czech ensembles or bands in this area, um, they tend to be family oriented, very family oriented, but they also tend to be uh, family affairs, right? And within the band,
can
is that true
can
in a lot
be.
of cases, like fathers and sons or
Uh-huh.
brothers?
I think the Vrajel Polka Band is a good case in point, where not everybody in the band is you know, like a brother or sister to each other, but there's members in the band that their child will marry one of the band members' kids, and so it kind of gets locked in that way.
Hmm.
And so uh, I know, like Alfred Vragel's, what was it? No, it was George Tomiska was a guitarist as well as saxophone player, excellent guitarist, and his son married Alfred Vragel's daughter.
Hmm.
Okay, see, and so that's kind of the way that kind of stuff worked, and it helped kind of, you know, uh, keep them together, you might say, or whatever, but just helped kind of solidify the organization of the band.
Hmm.
But trying to think of anything else. As far as my knowledge of bands or my knowledge of Czech music, it's not really anything. I mean, I just I play it because I hear it and I like it and I do it.
Hmm.
It's a pleasure for me to do it. So, the only thing I guess I can think of is uh, the one that comes to my mind as far as Czech composers, and we're not talking about Antonin Dvorak, with the New World Symphony, because
Hmm.
that's classical
Hmm.
stuff. But would be František Moch, and he was the March King of Czechoslovakia, just as John Philip Sousa was in America.
Hmm.
That type of thing. In fact, if I understand correctly, I believe the two were contemporary. They were composing music at about the same period of time. And whether they collaborated or not, I don't have any idea. I don't know, but because it's a pretty back then people didn't do a whole lot of traveling after they do now. No phones to pick up and talk or whatever else, you know. But Kamal came up with a number of marches. That was his specialty, and there's a number of them that I can either play or I'm hoping to learn how to play one or two.
How do you spell his last name?
K-M-O-O-C-H.
Okay. Kamal.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. The CH in Czech is kind of a sound.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so your parents were full-blood Czech.
Mm-hmm. My father may have had a little German in him. I think it's possible. I think he had said that. But primarily, when we say Czech, I guess to be more correct, you would say Moravian.
Moravian.
Because the Czechs were on the west side of the country, you know, like around Prague or whatever else, and their language is you might say a more formal type of language, whereas the Moravians, you know, were more of a rural setting, and so there are some words that they say differently, you know, but they can still communicate with each other. You know, it's a dialect, you might say.
Talk to me a little bit about Kathy and her family, your in-laws, and I know while they were still here, while they were still with us, they received publications still in the Czech language. Isn't that true?
Yeah, he used to get, and it's no longer in print anymore. It was called Nashinets, and I think it translates as countryman, if I'm not mistaken. And then the Vietchnik was another one. That's the journal of the SBJSD. And they, whenever I was a youngster, you could count on one half of that issue being in the Czech language. And now they might have a couple of pages, well, maybe even just one page that's in the Czech language, and the rest of it is in English. And that's primarily because people are not speaking Czech anymore.
Right.
You know.
Do you remember a time when you would hear Czech spoken as the predominant language in dance halls here locally?
Whenever I was a kid, my father would take me, my brothers to the lodge meetings. He was a member of Lodge 80, which is here in Holland, and the meeting was conducted exclusively in the Czech language. I don't remember any English being spoken. And I can remember also whenever I would attend church in Granger as a kid, whenever I was, you know, spending a week with my aunt and uncle there, and we would go to church, and there was a Monsignor Vaniček, and whenever he would give his homily, it was in Czech. You know, he wasn't very fluent at all in English, and so he gave it all in Czech.
Wow.
Of course, I didn't understand any of it because as I was growing up, we grew up in town, and my parents didn't see a need to teach us the Czech language. And it was really a disadvantage because the best way to learn a language is as a child. When you get to be an adult, it's difficult unless you have a special gift for languages. And I don't. So, that's just the way it goes.
So you speaking about being in church reminded me of being at Mr. Kopesky's funeral.
Right.
Your father-in-law, and some of the, can you describe some of the music being played at his funeral, and then maybe how Czech music influences even music in the church? I think Mr. Morris mentioned to me that there's even polka masses, and there's things like that. I was not aware of that until recently. So
yeah.
Can you just talk a little bit about that? What you know about that?
Well, the whole thing, you know, I can't remember some of the stuff that we had played for my father-in-law's funeral was, you know, just music that is common today. I mean, you know, I can't remember the exact songs. Kathy could tell you each one it was if you want the names of them.
Were they particularly religious songs though?
Yeah, some of them were. Well, they were religious. What it was is kind of like polka mass. You know, they'll get a popular polka or a waltz and then add religious lyrics to it.
Okay.
Okay. They do that, and some of the music that I think could have been played, and I'm not positive, but is actually Czech hymns, you know, that were sung years ago, many years ago, at a mass like for the dead or whatever else, you know. So,
Mm.
but, yeah, that was not really common to have that organization, that group singing for the mass like that. They don't do that too much anymore.
Can you describe, because seated in the pew, I couldn't really see behind me, um, but can you describe what that instrumentation looked like, and whether that was that traditional? I mean, I remember hearing guitar and I remember hearing accordion, and I
Yeah.
remember the singers' voices. I'm trying to remember what else I heard in that texture.
Yeah, guitar and accordion, and of course they had a piano they were playing, and I don't know that I don't know if there was any other instruments besides that offhand. Um, I believe that was probably it.
Okay.
You
Last but not least, as far as my questions are concerned, and I probably forgot something too, but you know, what is a traditional Czech ensemble look like? You talked a little bit about that earlier, and then how does that compare to kind of what you might experience now? And one thing that Michael Morris was talking about was um, how traditional Czech bands have now had to incorporate popular music and country and western uh, into their styles just to stay viable,
know.
in the dance halls and to keep people interested and keep people
Hmm.
coming. And so he was talking about how they might add electric guitar in here or electric bass, and how maybe the bass has kind of replaced the tuba and some of the German music. And
Hmm.
um, but what would a traditional Czech ensemble look like? And then how is Texas culture, or the country western kind of music culture, influenced these Czech ensembles? I mean, in your opinion?
Well, it's pretty much just what you said. The traditional Czech ensemble would be, well, I would say, strictly brass, and
Really?
yeah, I don't. And then, but of course,
With accordion, has accordion always been in the mix somewhere?
I don't know if the accordion has necessarily been in the mix. Of course, I guess I'm looking more at the stuff from the Czech Republic, that
Hmm.
from years ago, and I can't say with any authority, whether there was an accordion being played at the time in there. Of course, that may have been sort of added, with the bands, being formed in America. I don't know.
Hmm.
I can't really say with any authority on that. And the other question I can't remember. Oh, as far as the different instruments, well, yeah, that right there is part of the what I would call the Americanization, of the Czech bands, and that is that they're going to be putting in, saxophones and steel guitars and electric bass and things like that.
Hmm.
So
Do people of Czech descent, and just people who really enjoy Czech music, uh, does that spoil the sound for you, or is it something you can still appreciate
mhm.
as just having a unique Czech flavor?
Yeah, I can appreciate it just because it's music that has evolved to that point, you know,
Hmm.
and uh,
Do you think it's helping that style of music, that genre of music, to stay alive in a sense in this area?
I would think so. Yeah, because there's not. Uh, I'm of the opinion that people like me who like the traditional stuff are not that mm, well. We're in the a minority, but for certain. I mean, there's no doubt about it. There's I don't know what Michael Morris's personal preferences are, but I do know that whenever his dad was alive, that was his personal preference. He liked the old stuff, the old country. I remember some years ago there
When you
was
say the old stuff, just clarify for me.
yeah, we're talking about music from Czechoslovakia.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how was that sound distinct from the sound that we might hear walking into a dance hall today?
Uh, I I would say it would be because it's primarily brass. Number one. Number two is it's strictly orchestrated music. And it's not something that's you know not exactly thrown together, but I'm saying,
It's not as improvisational.
yeah, well, there you are. That's the term. That's what I was trying to think of. But I remember years ago, when I say years ago, it's probably within the past 30 years, there was a man out of Dallas, and he had a radio program every Sunday afternoon that I loved to tune into because all the music he played was from Czechoslovakia.
Hmm.
There wasn't, I don't think, hardly any music at all that was from the local bands or anything like that. And so I always appreciated his taste in music.
Hmm.
So I think I have a tape of music. In fact, I'll play for you if you have.
Absolutely.
Okay. See if I can find it.